Hey guys, Youngblood with you, and today I wanted to do a video that I think was a little bit overdue, but that's a review on the Tobii Eye Tracker 5. Now, if you're unfamiliar with the product, it's essentially a bar that you attach to the bottom of your monitor, and using sensors, it can track your head and eye movement. Traditional head tracking is just following your head's movement, but eyes are a little bit more precise, so allowing for tracking of your eyes allows for greater precision when you put that into play in a game. Now, considering that my channel is largely focused on Star Citizen, it's also good news to share that the Tobii team and CIG appear to have formalized a partnership, which is really ensuring that Star Citizen is considered a supported game, meaning that the device is native in settings, which also means that tweaking is the easiest and fastest way to get things done when you do it in-game. Setup of the device is easy. You really just are relying on peeling off some sticky pads adhering to the bottom of your monitor. You plug in a cable extender and you get it connected to your case. First off, I was having a hard time getting this to work, but after some brief research, it turns out that this device prefers USB 2.0, so picking the right USB port in your case to connect to is important and makes a big difference. I've also heard that the power output of some USBs compared to others can have an impact on how things work, so just know if you do decide to move forward with this product, you may need to play USB shuffle until you find the right one. The software from Tobii, once you've plugged it into the right place, installs automatically, and then you move into calibration in the Tobii app itself. That involves kind of a fun process of seeing a dotted representation of your face and being able to see the head movement and a kind of a cloud or a ghost image showing where your eyes are looking. And the device gets calibrated as you move through some test steps. Overall, the experience, aside from the USB port thing, was really easy and kind of fun to get started with. Most of the management of the device, once calibrated, is done in-game, at least with Star Citizen. Now, speaking of Star Citizen, my assumption is that you all care way more about how the tool works in the game as opposed to the ease of setup. So let's move into the overall impressions of the device and what it provides you. First off, regardless of whether you're talking head tracking, eye tracking, both, or something else, anything else that gives you the ability to gain better immersion into the game is a phenomenal add to the overall experience. Look right with your head and your character does that. You start to get pulled into the overall immersive universal experience. You get into your cockpit and you look down to find the button you want to push instead of having to hit a hotkey and move it around in interaction mode, and it's kind of magic. So regardless of solution, head tracking as a category is a huge gain to the game. More importantly to some, though, is really being more effective in the game by leveraging different utilities and hardware. And I think that's where head tracking in general is very helpful. Anything that can give you better situational awareness is a huge perk. You know, if you're just looking at your monitor, you have a certain field of view. But if you can make your character's head move and look different directions and you see more of the field in front of you, you gain awareness. And that translates to success in combat, in racing, and just general tasks like landing and flying. Fighting in asteroid fields, you can avoid or use asteroids to your advantage because you know where they are. Being able to identify where enemies are in bounty situations and not getting tunnel visioned or relying on the radar and being able to supplement them with HUD indicators, that you can really now look in a general direction and kind of see what's happening is really a big add to your survivability and your natural instincts because you now know what's coming. Overall, just being able to look around without having to engage other buttons to do so means a lot in a lot of different ways to different players. But at the end of the day, that's a pure value add regardless. There are a few Star Citizen related items that are pretty clutch, including the ability to look at a target, press target forward, and you can get the lock. So even if you're evading or flying a different direction, you can now target lock in ways that would take your hands off the stick if you didn't have head tracking. With that, a really nice perk is that if you can look and you can target, you can also move into missile operator mode and you can get a missile lock without having that target directly in front of you. So now you're starting to be able to prepare and toss offensive or defensive missiles out into the playing field. Now you're probably saying at this point, Youngblood, this is an eye tracker review, and all you're really talking about head tracking. What gives? And that's a fair point, it really is. But the idea behind all of the technology is the same. Leverage what you're doing in real life and turn that into an in-game aberration as the result. How is that accomplished is where the Tobii Eye Tracker 5 starts to establish a bit of a lead. First off is the obvious difference, that it can do head and eye tracking, where most of the other solutions in the market are purely looking at head tracking. I personally find that eye tracking with default settings is a very twitchy experience. It works well in test cases, but when you're flying around and you're looking at everything on your screen, you're going to be seeing your character bounce around a whole lot. It can be a little bit distracting. But the good news is that there is an in-game slider under controls that allows you to choose how much you're going to be using eye tracking versus head tracking. I personally have that very much favoring head tracking with some very minor eye tracking at the end of the range. I also appreciate that there's an option to toggle head and eye tracking on and off in the game. Now, I have leveraged that by putting a key on my left stick that allows me to really engage when I have head tracking on and when I don't want to use it. And the reason I've done that is mostly personal and a little bit practical. First off, I find that I'm kind of a fidgety dude. I switch positions in my chair a lot. I look at my phone or my second monitor. I drink a lot of water or probably more beer than I should. But long story short, I'm moving my head a ton, and as a result, it creates a very jittery experience that can actually break the immersion. The practical part is that I make videos and content, and when I do that, having content of me bouncing all over the damn place isn't likely going to be the type of content that you all would enjoy. So no, I don't leave the setting on at all times. However, having the ability to be able to engage it when I want to, which comes from partnership between CIG and Tobii, to have the in-game controls that let me dictate when I want the situational awareness is huge. So for example, being able to look at MFDs that are out of the view typically to let me know if I'm coming up on a hurricane or a hammerhead is a nice perk. Being able to turn tracking on when I'm in a precarious situation, when I need to move my head and going to benefit from it, yeah, that's nice overall too. I'm saying that I'm personally a huge fan of things that increase the in-game immersion and success, and head tracking and eye tracking can do that for you. I'll also say that the idea of walking around a city with tracking on and being able to look around and have kind of an out-of-body experience in the game sounds cool, but in actuality, it doesn't feel real. It's actually kind of a nauseating experience. And while I would highly encourage anyone, at least at current state, to try it, you most likely want to turn off your head tracking because it doesn't just really work right now in FPS situations in an effective way. I expect that to probably develop and become smoother at some point, but right now you probably don't want to engage it when you're outside of a ship. So let's differentiate things a bit, because I am reviewing a product and not a genre of products. I've used Track IR, I've used face tracking, I've used phone app versions of it, and now the Tobii Eye Tracker 5. I can easily say that this is my favorite tracking experience to date. I found that the Track IR smokes all the other free options on the market, so if we really just want to talk about Tobii versus Track IR, you're talking about the two market leaders, I suppose, at least in my mind. Overall, though, Tobii has some major advantages that Track IR just can't compete with. First off is the obvious one, that Track IR isn't even really true head tracking. It's really more device tracking, as it's focused on a device that you wear on your head that you're not actually tracking your actual head. It works well to accomplish the goal, and honestly I like it, but it just doesn't really hold up from a technology advancement perspective. Also from that perspective, I tend to hate when companies think that they've cornered a market and stop advancing. Track IR came out with Track IR 5 back in 2009, I believe, which was 12 years ago, and I haven't seen them do much since. So is it really the best technology offering that they can put out there? I hope not. And I also hope that they see what Tobii is doing here and come out with something slightly even better, because an arms race between companies is a good thing to consumers. A good example is me using Ryzen versus Intel right now, and seeing all the perks and benefits at a good cost that I paid compared to going over to the Intel side. Regardless of that, though, there's also two flavors of Track IR, which is either the base model, which has the clip that you need to put onto like the bill of a hat that has little reflectors on it that allow for the IR sensors to pick up a reflection. It does work well, but it does require you to play in light for the reflection to be reliable. I don't know about how you personally game, but I play in the dark. And because of that, I had to move to the second option that they offer, which is the Pro Clip, which has to get power from a USB. And it has 3 little red LED lights that allow for the IR to work in the dark. I'm wearing a wireless headset, so having a wire to my USB port to power 3 lights kind of defeats the purpose of my wireless headset. And while yes, you can rig up a battery pack to adhere to your head, it's just something else that needs charging. Overall, when I compare the head tracking of the Track IR to the head tracking of Tobii, they're honestly pretty similar. They are tools to accomplish the same goal. However, the way that it is done means that the Tobii does this in a way that's significantly more elegant and is more hands-free and cord-free. So if you're at a break even on the result, but the experience is better, you're already seeing what direction this is leaning. Beyond that, though, you get into what Tobii really offers, which is the eye tracking is the real differentiator. The eye tracking is real. It works, it can control gimbals, and it can give you situational awareness, but all of that can also be done via head tracking. So the question really comes down to you. Are you a very still person that can manage to find a balance and only look at the screen? Then yeah, sure, the eye tracking gives you more benefit. I think for most players though, just finding the right spot on the slider between head and eye tracking to ensure that you have a smooth experience is the real key. There are some bright spots with eye tracking though that have really impressed me. First off, it doesn't matter if I'm only being lit by monitors in my room or the light behind me even. The device is able to track my eyes without issue. Additionally, I'm sure many of you will appreciate this because I'm also a fellow bad vision dude. I live my life in contacts, but I game at night, and that's when I'm in my glasses. And the Tobii has no issues picking up my eyes through glasses or the glare from the monitor. Overall, the software is incredibly impressive, as is the device, and if you find the settings that are best for you, the Tobii gear gets the job done in a very good way. The price is coming in at about $230. It can sound a little bit high, but I would say that for most of us that have spent way more than that than we should on virtual ships, finding a peripheral that adds a lot to the game, regardless of the ship that you're flying, is an easy decision. My overall recommendation on the Tobii Eye Tracker 5 is that it does its designated job well, the relationship with CIG is important, and the impact to what it gives you in-game is significant. Overall, it's a very good buy. Now, in full disclosure, before wrapping up, I did want to let you all know that this is a product that I've been interested in for a while, so I did reach out to get a unit to play with and test. And having played the Eye Tracker 5, I agreed to sign on as an ambassador for the product. That does not mean that I am paid to promote this product. More so that I'm able to offer some things as part of the partnership, such as giveaways if my code is used, for example, and maybe discounts when those happen. And if that happens, great, but I don't really care about that so much, more that you all get an honest opinion of the product and how it relates to Star Citizen. Beyond all, being honest and giving you an impartial review is always going to be my core objective. Now, if you do decide to purchase using my code, which is just STLYoungblood, means that you get a fairly meager 5% discount, but it may also allow me to give further giveaways depending on how things are going with the relationship. Much like ship reviews, though, I would leave this and say buy what makes you and your wallet comfortable. I think the product is awesome and frankly best in the market, but that doesn't mean you should shell out if times are hard. It's kind of a luxury purchase that just makes the game better, but it isn't necessary. You could do a $25,000 sim pit that would make the game better, but I'm not rushing out to do that either. So regardless, I hope you found this review interesting and helpful, especially if you're on the fence with a purchase. Feel free to ask questions in the comments. Otherwise, thanks for watching. Have yourselves a wonderful day, and take care.